Good morning and welcome to Daf Yomi Maseches Moed Katan Daf Hey number 5. It's a little cold today, that's why I'm wearing my jacket and my scarf. Um, I want to tell everybody that I'm making an amazing video. It's pretty much made already about the life of my esteemed father-in-law, Shlomo Price, who was a Rebbe in Yeshivas Neve Tzion. He's known as called Priceless Sichot. He wrote Sichot on the Parsha, which he distributed through email blast to a lot of people. He had a lot of Talmidim. A lot of people remember him very fondly. Everyone, I think, remembers him very fondly. And we have a short documentary on his life coming out. Personally, I didn't really get to spend so much time with him. He was nifter 2 years after I got married. He was pretty sick. He got pretty sick right when I got engaged. He wasn't himself, so unfortunately I didn't get to meet the real Rav Shlomo Price, but everything I've heard about him and everyone who talks about him, he really was a very special, amazing person, a big tzaddik. You knew him, Shmuel?
I knew him. I remember, sure. I remember him coming to Davin. I remember hearing. I remember seeing. He has a big booklet. I saw big booklets of.
Yeah, so it's called Priceless Sichot, the name, Priceless Sichot.
Like typewritten or something.
Personally, he has like 3 or 4 pages, Divrei Torah, Divrei Chizuk, that are very relatable to people in this day and age. And he used to say them at the Shabbos table. I took over for that minhag. I say his Sichot at the Shabbos table in the Price residence. They're very inspiring, and I think a couple of them were printed even at Mishpacha magazine and the Jewish press. I think picked up one of his Sichot. It's written in some Svarim. They have portions from his Sichot, his Mishalim. Very special. All right, Shmuel, you ready to learn today? Should have learned a little Moed Katan. Today we have animal, cute animal, a toy. I mean, it's a snake. We have a snake. A snake.
Is that
My shoulder here. You want to hold it?
No,
Sure, hold it.
No,
Take it.
I'm good.
It's got a strawberry with it. It's got a birdie. Bumblebee. Here's the bumblebee, and here's the little birdie. So the snake attracts a lot of attention. If you go to the zoo on Moed, where you should be going, obviously, you might encounter, depending on which zoo you go to, you might encounter a bunch of snakes. They won't bite you.
What are you talking about? I had one in my house this morning. I woke up. It was sitting on the table reading a newspaper and drinking coffee. Yeah.
Snakes
They're all
do
over
that?
the place here. Yeah, they're all over the place here.
Did it bite you?
Didn't bite me.
It didn't bite
drank
you?
my coffee. What is it?
It drank your coffee,
Yes.
really? Doesn't it say in the Torah that all the food of snakes tastes like dirt?
I don't know. Maybe he thought it was coffee.
Did the snake have legs?
Grounds. He has legs? No, they don't.
When they were first created, they used to have legs, right? That was the curse of the Nachash. No? Has to go on its belly.
Yeah, that's what it means.
Is it interesting for it? Because, the middle pasuk in the Torah, what is the middle pasuk in the Torah? Holech al Gichon. Gichon is a reference to a snake on its belly. It's the middle pasuk in the Torah.
Oh, yeah?
The whole world revolves around we know the Nachash is, symbolic of the Yetzer Hara.
Interesting.
If you want to conquer the Torah, you have to conquer the Nachash, the snake. He makes everything very confusing. He's all tangled up in knots. He's tangled up in knots. His body is tangled up in knots. He ties you up in knots.
That's right.
Mirta Hashem, the learning of Daf Yomi, 7-year cycle, only with Ben Sion Lang. Then you'll be Zocha to be free of the Nachash. Only if you stick with me and listen to every shir, and like every shir, and comment every shir. I'm joking. No, I would appreciate if people would subscribe and like and watch my shirim because I think they're very good. We'll start today on top of Hamid Aleph. The Mishnah says,
Nachash is Gematria
Mesachnin
Mashiach. Nachash is Gematria Mashiach.
Really?
358.
Wow. That's so. What's the connection? Okay. The Mashiach overcomes the Nachash, right? He beats the Nachash. All right. Misachnin es kulei harab hamayim shebrishus harab. You're allowed to fix places reservoirs where they had water. Okay? Chatita in chafir los. The Gemara assumes it means that if you have a water reservoir, let's say a well or something like that, or now where do they store water? In America, there's water tanks, underground water reservoirs. You're allowed to clear it out from debris. Chafir lo, but you can't dig new water reservoirs. Amar of Yaakov, Yochanan, Lishon, El Shein Ram, Srich Lahem. We are only taught where the people don't need this water on Cholamoid. Or Ram, Srich Lahem, people need this water on Cholamoid. Afilu Chafir Motor. You're allowed to even dig new water cisterns, new water reservoirs. Why? Because Sarche Rabim, even Tirche Yisera is mutter on Cholamoid. Rabim Srich Lahem Mishari. If a lot of people need them, is it really mutter? Vatani Chot and Boros Shichnu Maros Shel Yachid. You're allowed to clear out the wells and the shichin, or ditches, maros, and caves full of water that belong to an individual. Even and certainly if they're public. But you can't create new ones. You can't dig them out. It's a lot of work. My lab Sharam Strichlam. Isn't this Bryce talking about even where the public needs them on Cholamoid? And my answer is Lo B'Shein Ram Strichlam. It's talking about public ones, but they don't need it. They have other water for Cholamoid. The Kavasa, the Gemara asked, the Kavasa Gabi Yachid. So then, parallel for a Yachid, privately owned water reservoir. Shein Yachid Sarach Lahem Chatita Mishari. It's Chatita. It says in the Bryce says, "And what the cleared out is Mutter Atanya Boros Sichon Maros Shei Yachid Kontin Mayim L'Sochan." If they're privately owned, these wells, you're allowed to draw water into them. Let's say to funnel water through a canal into them. Avalo chotin, you can't clear them out. Avalo shafin esikein, you can't plaster them. Mishal rabim chotin osan. Public ones, you could clear debris out of them. B'shafin esikein, you could plaster them. Elamai. So you see what? So you see that a yachid is not sarach lahem. You're not even to do chatita. You're not even to clear it out. So the Gemara asks, the Gemara goes back. So what are you going to say? The Bryce is talking about Chadita's mutter. Original Bryce says when a Yachid needs them, the Kavasa Gabram Mishram Strichel Chafira mi Aser. Is Chafira really Aser? V'hatanya Boros Shichel Maro Shel Yachid Kontman L'Sochan Chotin Osan Amat Lo Shafin Is Gayan. If they belong to an individual, right? You're allowed to, I guess we're talking about where the individual needs it on Cholamoid, then you're allowed to clear out debris, but you can't plaster it. That's Tirche Yisera. V'lo Chotin L'Sochan, and you can't Chotin L'Sochan, meaning clear, make it accessible that water should go into it. V'lo Sa'adan Osan B'Sid, and you certainly can't plaster it with lime, which I guess makes it waterproof. I guess plastering just makes it water resistant, not waterproof. V'shel Rabim Chofer Osan, but if it's public, then you could even dig them anew. The sadness of a sid, and you're allowed to plaster with lime to even make it professional, to make it waterproof. So the Gemara is stumped. So we're stumped. These brises seem to conflict with each other. So the Gemara finally answers Taratachi. Chotin Boros Shichin. The original brisa. This is the explanation. Chotin Boros Shel Yachid. You're allowed to clear out debris from an individual well, but Sheyachid Sarach Lahem. When the individual needs the water, and certainly public ones when the Rabin Shechem, if the public needs it on Cholamoid, even digging new ones is a mutter. But you can't dig new ones if they don't need it the public. And of course not private ones. It goes from one end to the other, and if it's Rab in public and they need it, you can do Chafira. If it's a Yachid and the Yachid doesn't need it, you can't even do Chatita, you can't even clear it out. Amar Ravashi Mazis Namidaik, our Mishnah also proves this. You do all, as a general inclusion, you do all the necessities of the public. Kol Asuyimai, what is this? It's a generic word, Kol, what does it come to include? My love Asui Chafira, isn't it coming to include digging new wells? Lola Asui had this time to know it's coming to include something else. Another Bryce, the sun Yotzim, the Kavitz, the Drachim, if there are thorns and thistles on the way, on the paths, you're allowed, or private paths, you're allowed to remove them. On Cholamoid, L'Sakin, as Rehovos, and to fix the highways, the Esas, Daratod, and the marketplace, the streets on Main Street, you could clear out the debris. V'lamodas and mikvos, to measure the mikvos, whether they have 40 saw, v'chol mikvos she'em arba'im saw. If there's not 40 saw, for the woman to be tovel, and margil l'socha arba'im saw, you're allowed to funnel in that direction water to completed the 40 cell. If they didn't do these things, the Chol Moed, to go ahead and clear out the highways, clear out the private streets, people could fall on them, people get into accidents on them. It's like they killed someone. It's like you're responsible for the blood. So, so you see from this bright, that's what's coming to include. The mission is coming to include all these extra things. That's what's coming to, not to include chafira of new digging out, creating new wells. That's not included. So Gemara says, but the Mishnah included this price already. It says specifically in the Mishnah that you fix the highways and the streets, the private streets, as a mikvos, and they fix the mikvos. What is kol sarach coming to include? We haven't talked about that. Must be, it's coming to include. You can even create new water reservoirs on Chol HaMoed. Shema Mina. That's the final proof. You can do it if the public needs it. You're allowed to mark the graves. Draw a line around the graves. Usually pour lime or something like that. Something that would stay if the rain fell on it. In order people shouldn't become tameh. They shouldn't be ma'il. They shouldn't go walk on top of a grave and become tameh. We want to stay from tumah, especially kohanim, because they have to eat truma. They have to be in a state of tara. Amar Reb Shimon Pazi remez asin koros min haTorah minayin. How do you know? Where's the hint in the Torah that you're supposed to do this? You're supposed to be marking people from the kvaros. Now, obviously, we're not talking about a graveyard, right? A cemetery, because that's obvious that the graves that we're going to see is talking about where it's suffix, whether there's a mace there. Then you have to mitzay in the kvaros. You have to make it mitzuyan. You have to make it special. It should be clear to everybody that you shouldn't go and be matami yourself. Also, kohanim stam, they can't be matami themselves, right? Forget about eating truma. There's an issur of kohanim becoming tamei. That's this in the Torah. It says in the pasuk in Yechezkel, you'll see the bone of a person and you make a sion. Sion could be a kever, also a marker. He said before Yechezkel came, who said this? Someone must have said it before Yechezkel, where it says, we have Rav Chisda said somewhere else, the following we didn't learn from the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu, we did Yechezkel ben Buzi Lamad. From Yechezkel we did learn it. Kol ben Nechar Aral Lev Aral Basar Liyavel Mikdashi L'Sharseni. Any Kohen, not only if he's a ben Nechar, meaning he's someone who's a mumar lahalacha, he doesn't keep the Torah publicly. Aral Lev Aral Basar. If he's uncircumcised, also if it's Kohen, he keeps the Torah, but he doesn't have a circumcision, he doesn't have a bris milah, he can't do avoda. Where do you know? We only first saw in Yechezkel. It was a tradition they had that a Kohen who didn't have a bris milah can't serve in the base of Mikdash. Yechezkel came and supported it from a pasuk. Really was modoraisa from the Torah. It just wasn't written down. Yechezkel came and found this allusion to marking the kvaros. Rabbi Abba Amar Mahacha. Rabbi says we learned from the following: with Tami Yikra. Tuma korelov omeres lo prosh. Tami is a reference to him in Torah. It means he little translation of the pasuk. He cries out to people and tells them that he's tame. So we're going to see the secondary drasha in the pasuk that the tuma calls out and tells you to desist, to remove yourself. What tuma calls out? Marker for a kvaros. Rabbi Uziel bar Braid, Rabbi Uziel Rabbah. Yuzal, the grandson, was a rabba. Tuma korelov omeres la prosh. The tuma, the marker of the tzion, of the grave, calls out to you and says, "Distance yourself." Does this pasuk come tell me that? This pasuk by a Mitzorah is needed for something else. Tami yikra. Tami yikra literally means he should call out that he's tami. Why? What's the intention of him calling out that he's tami? That people should know that he's a Mitzorah and should daven for him, right? It's important. Right, Shmuel, that if other people daven for you, it could be even more effective than your own tefillos, right?
Yeah.
Is that true or not?
I guess it helps.
Is your tefillah more potent, or the tefillah for a chayrim on you?
Let's dive in. So your tefillahs will reach Hashem.
I personally would say that your personal tefillos, my opinion is that the personal tefillos of a person are the most truest form. Right? Because who knows the tsar of a person? Lev Yoder Maras Nafsho, right? Lev Yoder Maras Nafsho. Only a real person really knows how he's truly feeling. So his tefillah is more emistic, but it does say in Chazal that you should daven. How are you singing, Shmuel?
Remember that song?
Which song?
Miami.
Daven what?
What?
What did you say?
What?
What's the song? What song are you singing? The Nachash, obviously.
Don't talk, just daven. Say it feels will we reach Hashem. You remember that song?
No, that song. But Shmuel sang it this morning with the Nachash over coffee, and they were singing the song. Shmuel was singing the song, and the Nachash was doing the harmony.
Nachash was off key.
He was off key. That's why you only let him do the harmony. You didn't let him do the
song. You ever Nachash speak and you ever hear him sing?
Well, you told him he was drinking coffee.
Snake
was drinking coffee. Was he eating animal crackers? We still have our animal crackers over here. So if anyone wants to come to the shir, we still have animal crackers. Come eat them. You can dip it in your coffee and eat it with Shmuel and the Nachash. All right, and the snake. All right. So Gemara says he has to tell people that he's tamei, so people will ask mercy for him, so he should be cured from his haras. The Gemara says im kein lifto v'tamei yikra. Could have just said the word tamei one time. Maybe tamei. It says the word tamei twice. You learn two things from it. Abaye says, where do we know that you mark the kvaros from? Velif ne'iver los sein michshol. So it's included.
Each and everyone.
We can't have sing. And I heard that song.
Right?
That's a nice song.
Don't talk, just dive in. Say it feels will reach Hashem. You remember that? We need you. We need your disease.
Very nice.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay, what did I say?
Velif ne'iver, at least he's a michshol. It says you shouldn't put a stumbling block in front of a blind person. That nichlal, part of that pasuk, is to teach me that you should mark the kvaros. Rav Papa Amar, v'Amar solu pano derech, lift, remove from the path, remove tuma from the path. Maybe, I'm not sure. Rav Chanina Amar harimu michshal miderech ami, raise the stumbling block from the path of my people. Rav Yeshua Breder, Rav Idi Amar, v'hodas alahem es haderech yelchu ba, teach them the way, the proper path to go. I mean, metaphorically, it means the proper derech haTorah, but it also literally means which path to go on, so that the Kohanim don't become tamei. Marzusha Amar, v'izartem es b'nei Yisrael mitumasim. We should warn Klal Yisrael from becoming tamei. This is where it's learned from. Rav Ashi Amar, shmartem es mishmarti asu mishmer l'shmarti. You should make a safeguard for my commandments. Safeguard. You should warn people from becoming tamei. Ravina Amar, v'sam derech hareinu b'yesh Elokim. Someone who places markers on the path will see the Yeshua of Hashem. Yeshua ben Levi. Kol ha-sham or chosav. I always read this. This is in Mesilas Yesharim, this Gemara. I never understood. I never knew whether it was sam or sham. I could never figure that out. I was going back and forth my whole life. Kol ha-sam or chosav zocher Yashua rozocha v'roa b'shas HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The article says kol ha-sham or chosav. Sham means that you evaluate your ways. You do a cheshbon nefesh. We talked about the last daf of Maseches Megillah, how you do a cheshbon nefesh. If he does a cheshbon nefesh, he finds out what he's doing in his life. He sees the Yeshua. He'll be zocher to see the Yeshua Hashem.
Beautiful.
I always thought it could be also sam or chosav, that he places his ways. He's very careful which way he walks. But really, the Gemara is proof. Shenemar v'sam derech al tikru v'sam ela v'sham. So you see, it must be that it's changing something. So it must be originally with sam, and now it's sham. So really, that article pretty much has it correct. Sham derech hareinu v'yesha elokim. Rabbi Yanai, Havaleo Talmida, he had a student. The Chol Yom have a makshale. Would also in the private class that he would give, he would always ask very hard questions. And B'Shabbos the Rigla, when it's a really public event, when the whole shul, the whole community came to hear his Joshua, love him actually. He wouldn't ask him the questions that he would have a difficult time answering because he didn't want him to be embarrassed. Kari Aleh, on top of him, would be his Kari Aleh, B'Sam Derech Arenu, B'Sham Derech Arenu, B'Yesha Elokim, someone who evaluates his ways. He did a Cheshbon Nefesh. He realized, even though normally it's a good thing to ask questions in shir, if you're in a class or you're in a shir, and you're wondering whether it's a good thing to ask questions, yes, the Gemara seems to say it's a good thing to ask questions, but if it's a public lecture, if a rabbi is speaking in front of hundreds of people, he speaks on Friday night, the rabbi speaks here on Friday night, or a rabbi speaks in the middle of a Shabbos Hagadol drasha, it's better not to ask questions. You see from this Gemara.
That's right. That's what the
learn
story with
from
the,
this Gemara. Practice halachas. practical hashkafa.
Someone once asked the Rav, someone giving a shir, someone asked him, he said,
Yeah.
you don't know from your right to your left. What are you asking for? After they said, why was he was asking a good question? He said, I know. I meant he doesn't know from the right to the left. I didn't mean he wasn't. He was asking. He doesn't know that sometimes you have to put the shin, the dot on the shin on the right. It's a shin, and sometimes the sin. That's what it says over here. That the Talmud shouldn't ask in the middle of in public. You shouldn't ask in the public and embarrass the Maggid Shir. That's what he meant. You don't know between your right and the left.
Shmuel is adding, adducing proof from an incident with the Meshech Chachma, where he said, you don't know from your left when he asked a question during the Shabbos Haggadah Drasha. You see over here in a private class, it's a good thing to ask questions, but it's not a good thing to ask questions. You might embarrass him in a big public address to the seaboard. Because he said right to left, right to left. It depends where you put the dot on the shin. Do you put it Sam or Sham? Sam means that you try to ask questions, and Sham is evaluate your ways. Don't ask, don't embarrass him in public. Beautiful, Shmuel. Thank you for the amazing proof. Tara Rabbana. Ein mitzaynin lo al kazayas min hameis v'lo al etzem kisaora. You don't put a marker on a kazayas min hameis and not on a bone the size of a barley seed. Well, davar she'enu matame ba'oel, and anything which is not matame ba'oel, because we're only worried that a person's going to go step over on top of a buried grave, a buried corpse, or a buried bones of a dead person, and he'll become an oel and he'll be matame himself. But if it's not matame ba'oel, we're not worried. We're not worried he's going to touch it. We're worried it's going to be an oel. Al mitzayin al sadev al gulgolos al rov binyan al rov minyan hames. You do make a sion, al shedra on a spinal cord, al golos or skull, or rov binyan, a rov minyan. If you have most of the bones, it's 248 bones in the body, 125 bones are in a pile, or rov binyan, or you have the major bones in the body in a pile. They say over here the femur and the tibula and the fibula. You know what those bones are. That's considered most of the height of a person. Be'ein mitzayin al havados. But this is only talking about where it's a suffix. If it's vadai, there's a golgolus there, there's a skull there, a body there, then you're not mitzayin. People know it's like a grave, a cemetery. People know there's a cave there. You don't have to mark it. Al mitzayin al svekos. Svekos, we'll see when you're not sure if there's a dead person there. Svekos, schachos, supros, base apras. Schachos is where a tree is overhanging, creating an OL. A pros is where a stone is protruding from a building, creating an all base apras. We'll see. Is a field that's plowed under. It had a mace there, and it was plowed, so you don't know where the bones of the mace are. But you can't place the marker directly on top of where the tuma is, because then people are going to step on the marker by accident. They're going to step on the tuma. Eretz Yisrael was a chiyuv to put because there's trumas and taros applying in Eretz Yisrael. Truma applies in the rice in Eretz Yisrael. So you don't put the marker too far away from the tuma, because people are not gonna step over there, and you're not gonna be able to enjoy Eretz Yisrael. You want to enjoy the land of Eretz Yisrael as much as possible. Because Zayis Ma'ames ain't a matame ba'ol. So the Gemara asks, Zayis Ma'ames is not something which is matame ba'ol. Tani elish matame ba'ol. Because Zayis of a mace is enough. The size of an olive amount of the corpse of a dead person is enough to matame in an oil. And here we're talking about exactly a precise kazayas, not a little more than that. The sof mixar chasar, by the time it gets buried, it's already going to be less than a kazayas, so therefore it's not going to be matame oil. The sof mixar chasar mutav yisrael alav truma v'kachel and fishav al yisrael alav la'olam. It's better that if truma and kachim come in contact with it, or an oil on top of it, right in the beginning where it hasn't decomposed a little bit, right? You have to burn truma and kachim. But since it's going to decompose and be less than a kazayas, so therefore most of the time we shouldn't be worried about it. What is considered sveikos? Schachos or pros? Schachos ilan amesach ala aretz. It's where you have branches of a tree that overhang on the ground, creating an oil over the mace. Pros avayim pruos hayotzos min ageder, protrusions from a fence. Stones from a fence that will serve as an oel over a tent, a covering oel over a mace. Beis pras. What is a beis pras? It's not a chorish, it's a kever. Someone who plows over a grave, Hareyu Osa Beis HaPras, he makes that land the Beis HaPras. Vakama Osa, how much is considered Beis HaPras? Male Mana, the amount of a faro mea amo, which is how much? 100 amos from the actual burial site. Beis HaPras Matame Ba'ol, where it says Beis HaPras is actually Matame in an Oel. Is that really true? Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel Menapeach Adam Beis HaPras V'Holich. If you have to go to Korban Pesach, you're allowed to blow. You have to go through a Beis HaPras. You don't want to become Tameh. You could just blow the ground, and as you walk, because any bones that'll be there, you'll blow away. And if they're big bones, you'll see them. The whole Rav Yehuda Bar Ami Mishmei Deulas, and we're not worried that there's bones underneath the ground. You'll be an Oel. If the Beis HaPras was completely stepped on by many people, so it broke the bones little pieces, and they're less than a Sa'ora, and you're not going to Tame, and we're not worried about bones underneath the ground. See, the Beis HaPras is not Matame. Oh, on Rav Papa Lokash, Kamatzada Sha'ava Bakever, Kamatzada Shenechrash Bakever. If it was plowed over the field, so then the bones are very small. We're not worried about an OL. But if it's of a bakever, where it was lost, we don't know where it is, but it's intact, so it's going to have the size of bigger than a soda, then we are worried. So the Shenechrash Bakever Beis HaPras, Carly, would you actually call that a Beis HaPras? In where it says, yeah, Vatnan Shlosha Beis HaPras, and there's three types of things called the Beis HaPras. Sada Sheneva Bakever, a Sada where you lost the kever, you don't know where the grave is anymore. Sada Shenechrash Bakever, a Sada that was plowed over. A Sada Buchim. A third thing is Sada Buchim. I have Sada Buchim. Rabbi Yehoshua Bar Abba, Mishmei Deula Amar Sada Shemaftir Ba Mason. They used to take the mace to a field, the people that were burying it, and they would hand it over in a certain field to the people that actually bury the dead person, the Chevra Kadisha, who they were retired and they buried it. So therefore, we'll see in a second why it's a suffix. What's the reason? Because people are they want to hastily get away. They don't want to deal with the mace anymore. It's a quick transfer. The Bailam run away pretty much from the mace and they hand it over, so people don't forget it. Sometimes the mace will get lost where it is in the field, and therefore it's a Beis HaPras. Sada Shenechrash Bakever Lo Ba Yision, a Sada where the field is plowed over, you don't need a marker. Atanya Matzah Sada Mitzuyenes, you find the field that was marked. Any do a Mativa, you don't know what's in the field. Yesh Ba Ilanos. If there's trees there, Yadu Shenechrash Bakever, then you know it's a field where trees grow, and trees, we're talking about fruit trees over here. So therefore you know that it was plowed over the field because you want to use the land to plant trees. Ein Ba Ilanos Yadu Sha'ava Bakever. If there's no trees, fruit-bearing trees, so then you know that the kever was lost there. No, we can't trust the fact whether there's trees or not trees. We have to rely only on a Talmud Chacham or an elder person, because they're very careful to know whether there was avad bakever or nechash bakever. Amar Rav Papa Kisanahi b'sadash avad bakever. We're talking about this. Bryce is talking about where a field where a sada where the kever, the grave was lost. Sainua, if they marked the Eish Bailanos Biadua Shnachsh Bakever. If they marked it and it has trees, we know that it was plowed over the grave. Ein Bailanos Biadua Sha'ava Bakever. And if it was lost, the grave, then if there's no trees, so then we know that it's a field where the kever was lost, and therefore you can't go into it. Maybe the ilanos are inside and the kevarim are outside, and therefore you'll step onto the mile on the kever. We're talking about a case where the trees are on the outside. So the Gemara continues. We'll continue at the top of Vavam and Aleph. Maybe the tuma is inside, and the ilanos are outside. Misuvah, so the Gemara, and therefore maybe you can't go inside. The Gemara says misuvachin. We're talking about meaning the tree, the fruit tree is on the outside, and the grave is on the inside. The Gemara says misuvachin. We're talking about where they're intertwined. The trees were mixed amongst the whole field. Alternatively, you can say, Amran ein marchin si umakum tuma shel hafzer Israel. We said before that when you put a marker around, you put it. You don't want to lose land of Eretz Yisrael. So if the tomb was really inside the trees, they would have put the marker inside the trees and not outside the trees. Once they put it outside the trees, we know that it's covering the field if it's a fruit-bearing tree. So it must be there was a kever that was nechras bo that was plowed under in the middle. I hope you enjoyed today's shir. We'll see you tomorrow with a different answer. And happy Tu B'Shvat.
That's right.
All right, enjoy your fruits today. Make all the brachos, have all the shivas haminim, and say all your brachos correctly. Bye.